like people could just show up and say I'm around when I might see and like the way our parents do, like they'll just show up and say, or they tell you the night before, I'm on my way.
Mm.
Like as opposed to I'm in Australia, you have to tell me that
Yeah.
you're coming. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Did you see my message?
yeah, I did. That I said it
Ah,
and then I remembered.
okay. So how do people cope with being away from home for many years? People that actually have attachments that actually ideally would like to be home, but you were giving examples of the reasons why people would
Mm,
want to visit home, for example. But some people may have left for, I don't know, some crisis, war crisis and stuff like that, or whatever
yeah.
other reason. So their heart really is home. So how do people cope with having to be away from home for many years, when it's outside of their power?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, for some people, and I'll probably use some things that I've seen from some friends that I've made from the South Sudanese community here, where for them, like, it's really hard to go home because a lot of them came here as refugees because of the war in Sudan. And and in fact, one of the vicars at my church, she's also South Sudanese as well, although she's moved to a new parish now. But one of the ways that she used to connect was, meeting other people from the same community. I
Mm,
guarantee that wherever you are, if there are other people from your country in that, new destination that you're going to, there's definitely a society
yeah.
or a council or, a gathering or community that they made. So if nostalgia is something that gets you now and then when you move to a new place, I would recommend um going to visit that society or association or community and get to know people from there, say hi. If you don't know where
Mm,
to find them, if you go to a market and you see someone from the same country as you, then you ask them, hey, are there others like us, and what are the events and what are the things that happen. So it's really great. I mean, one time I actually didn't know that there was a Nigerian association here in Brisbane where I am, but I had gotten in an Uber one day, and my Uber driver was a Nigerian. And so he told me, "Oh, I've never seen you before. Did you know that we had a Nigerian society?" And I was like, "Oh no, I
mm,
didn't." And he goes, "Oh, we have events coming up. I'm actually going for something this evening. Do you want to come? Here's the address. If you want to come, just show up if you want to." I think he probably didn't want to ask me for my number or anything because he didn't want to like seem as though he was forcing me
mm,
to come out. But it was really great to see or hear that there is a Nigerian association that you can kind of visit or call on or go to, and that would most likely be the case for you wherever you are. So as long as you can find one more person or two more people like you, yeah, join an association. If you were moving to study, there's definitely an association at your university. It may be not at your university, but there might be like a group of universities that have formed one society. So it wouldn't hurt you to like Google and find um,
mm.
these communities and these groups. But then also, um, and if there isn't any, you can start your own and invite the new friends that you've seen from your country who are now here and make your own small community. I think
Mm,
people forget that they can do that sometimes.
yeah.
Like make your own little group or small community because that then becomes like your new um group and your new family of sorts, especially if you move without your family as well and you're alone. That becomes your new family, that becomes your support group, that becomes your new village. So
Mm,
if you can't find any, it's okay for you to start your own. Yeah.
mhm. That's good. That's good. Fair, fair. Then does one restructure their mind to see the place as a new home, which I guess you've pretty much touched on.
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of
Because
restructuring.
yeah, so
You
for example, people that have maybe had to leave home for negative reasons, like as you just mentioned, the war or um, and then how do you structure your mind to see this foreign land with different foods, different practices, just general different culture? How do you structure your mind to see this new place as home?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Like there's a lot of restructuring that people have to do. And I think a lot of people also forget it. It kind of goes back to what I said earlier, where expect your plans to fall through and expect it not to work.
Mm,
Um, I mean, apart from the obvious initial hurdle that some people would face in terms of having to learn a new language, especially if maybe you're moving to a country where they don't speak English, or you're moving to a country that does speak English, but English is not your first language, and it
mm,
might be like one of the, old pre-colonial languages that you're coming from. Um, then there is that restriction and that hurdle that you do have to learn this language, but you also have to remember that because you're moving to a completely different space, a completely different society, you also should be prepared to make some adjustments and some changes to the way you move and the way you operate and the things that you would do, because what you might not consider to be um discourteous in your country and where you're coming from, it might be in this new country that you're going to. And so
mm,
you do have to take some societal considerations when you're thinking about the things that you are doing, or the things that you might want to do, or things that you might want to say as well. That's not to
mm,
say that you should bottle yourself up and not do anything,
mm,
but an element of trying is expected of you as a visitor, or a new entrant into this society that you now want to call home. And I think I remember a couple of years ago, my sister was doing a project called Where is Home? And it was asking people who no longer lived in their home countries what their perspectives on what home meant to them. And I
mm,
remembered speaking to this guy who he's a soldier, and he he had just recently come back from a tour of duty, and I'd asked him this question. I'd randomly see him in the park and told him about the documentary, and I asked him, can I interview you? And for him, home was being able to have what Asian friends might call talismans, you
mm,
know, um, treasured things from your family members and from your loved ones. As long as he had those with him wherever he was, he felt like he was at home. And
mm,
for you who's going to a new place, you now have to think about what is it that you need to have with you, or what is it that you need to take with you or keep with you. And I'm not talking about food stuff now, like talking about actual treasured artifacts or things that if you had this with you, you felt like this space now belongs to me and this is my home. For me, when I move anywhere, um, I always have these postcards that my sister gives me. And because she always gives me a new postcard wherever I'm going to, or wherever I am, or anytime I meet her. And sometimes she sends me
mm.
some in the mail, and we just calculate,
Yeah.
well, how long will it take to get here? Uh, and she'll do it with the slowest route possible. um, but with the fact it's postcards, but with my older sister as well, it's um the jewelry that she's given me. And sometimes I have these pair of shoes that she bought me a couple of years ago. They're heels. I rarely wear heels, but I took them with me and I made sure I had space for them in my suitcase. And my sister was like, well, where are you going with this? You can always buy new pairs. I was like, no, 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 I'm taking these with me. But
For
it's
sentimental reasons?
exactly not because I'm actually gonna wear them. Heck, they've been in the shoe rack ever since I got here. I've never worn them anywhere. But I just look at them and I smile because I know she bought those for me. For
Oh.
my mom, it's this quilt that she made from pieces of old wrappers that she had.
Mm.
I barely use it because I never feel cold here, like rarely, but it's nice to see it, in my cupboard. And sometimes I bring it out and I just put it on my bed. I don't use it, but it's there. So, they're just different things that make you very sentimental. And by having it, I feel like the space that I'm now in is my home. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, okay, that's good. Thank you so much. So we move on to what are the challenges that come with being a foreigner in a new land? So we're looking at it from the external people, outside people to you, first of all, and also from you to outsiders, when
Mm.
you're the new person, you're the I don't know, you're in a gathering of lawyers, but you're, for example, I don't know, a
Oh, yeah.
doctor. This is a wild analogy, but my point is that,
Mm.
back to the idea of moving to a new land, you're just like a fish out of water, right?
Mm.
In a sense. So what are the
Yeah.
challenges, the I guess negatives or the difficulties that come with this,
I
both
guess
from
maybe
people to
let's
you and
let's
from
start with
you?
the negatives first, and then we might move on to like the positives.
Yes.
I'd say, I mean, the negatives, like the biggest one, especially fear, would be racism and just trying to deal with people's ignorance, but quite a lot of racism is being able to handle that and deal with that. And for a lot of people, it's something that they've never had to deal with before. And that's not to say
Mm,
that anyone who's moving to a new country is not well traveled, but you've never
yeah.
been a part of the society. You've just been a visitor here and then you've gone back to your home where you're comfortable and everything works for you and everyone loves you. And you never have to deal with being uncomfortable. But when you choose to move to a new country with a completely different society way of life, especially where the predominant people in that society that hold power are of a particular race, then you should be prepared to deal with a lot of racism and ignorance. Um, I mean, the way everyone handles it will be different. I handle it with sarcasm. Um, and that way I'm not getting angry or upset. And it's also learning the art of actually truly being able to tell when someone is clearly being racist and someone is just
Mm,
ignorant. There's a really big
mm,
difference. And most of the time, the person who's ignorant is willing to learn and change. The person who's racist is just being downright racist and knows exactly what they're doing and what
mm,
they're saying to
mm,
you. Um, it's also being able to realize that when you felt uncomfortable in a gathering because of something someone has said or done, but you're not really sure if that thing was racist, trust your instincts that whatever it is that person did was racist. You just could not pinpoint what it was, but it is. Trust it.
mm,
Yeah. There's also the fact that because I'm also uh, I've decided to choose a career in tech, which is predominantly male as well. There's also an aspect of, and this has also happened to like other friends that I have who they're not in tech but in other industries, but there's also an atom of people thinking of you as being less intelligent or less than you actually
mm,
are. We know that's not the case. You all apply to the same school, apply to the same job. You might have had to just jump a few more hurdles than them purely just because people do not trust in the fact that you're intelligent or capable enough to do what you've come there to do. But that's also
mm,
something that you kind of have to get over. I've been talking with a friend recently who just got a job, and one of her challenges has always been the fact that the supervisors that she has, they keep having to ask her for things and she's finding herself slacking in her work because she's always doing these tasks that they come up with. And one thing that I don't know about other African countries or, other or even other Middle Eastern cultures, and but I'm assuming that it's somewhat similar to the Nigerian culture where you're not expected to push back or lay boundaries. Whatever it is your supervisor or manager or bosses ask you to do, you do without complaints. But one thing I've always told people is that when you start working with people who are white, it's okay for you to push back and say no. It's actually okay for you to have boundaries and lay it and be very clear. It's also okay for you to say, no, I cannot come to this meeting because I have other shit going on that I need to deal
Mm,
with, because they do the same as well. And if you
mm,
observe them in like any workplace, school, academia, wherever, if something is inconvenient for them, like even just in social gatherings with friends, they are perfectly fine with laying boundaries and pushing back. So it's also okay for you to do the same. Lay
mm,
boundaries, push back. But also another thing that I would say in terms of like having like personal friendships or relationships, um, it's also okay for you to tell someone that what they're saying or what they've done